Hi to everyone. Welcome to today's webinar on Mastering Overseas Visitor Health Cover with our amazing partner, AIA. We know health cover isn't the first thing people think about when they're planning their journey to the abroad. Yeah. But it should be the case that way. The right coverage can make all the difference in ensuring a smooth and a stress free experience. So, whether you are an immigration consultant, an education agent, or just someone keen to learn, we have got you covered. Let's dive in and make sure your clients are protected while they are exploring their new opportunities. Yep. So happy to have you all today. Just a quick insight for you. This is, on behalf of AIA Health Insurance. You can get a 6 week free, uh, overseas health visitor health cover when you join AIA by 15th of April 2025. So you can even maybe take a note of this. You can even communicate with your clients. And Aditya, would you like to say something over here? A quick insight.
Yeah, sure. So we are running a campaign for members, for prospective members, anyone who's a visa applicant for working visa, temporary work visas, and if they join within by 15th of April, they will get a 6 weeks free. There's obviously please look at the terms and conditions, but yeah, they will have a 6 weeks free available to them as a cashback.
Okay, that's a great offer. I'm sure it'll be useful to a lot of people, and our immigration agents will suggest to their clients as well. Okay. So I'll just give you a quick introduction from my end as well. My name is Bhavesh. I am basically the product expert at Conze Enterprise. I've been working here since good 3.5 years, and I'm sure if you guys have attended our previous webinars, you must have seen my face, or maybe in some of the videos if you are following Conze at any given point of time, maybe on LinkedIn or Instagram. So I am the today's host for you. And of course, we have Mr. Aditya Tate, who is the National Manager Partnerships International Health, AIA. Okay. Uh, he has over 20 years of experience, if I'm not wrong, in the international health insurance in Australia. And before joining AIA, to lead the development and launch of his AIA's OVHC proposition, he spent approximately 11 and a half years at Bupa, Australia, and even 5 years at Medibank Private. So he has, a vast experience in this field. I'm sure he'll be the correct person to give you good advice. He was instrumental in building and expanding education and migration agents partnerships and institution partnerships at Medibank and Bupa for both OSHC as well as OVHC. Aditya has also represented and advocated for international students in Australia and was a member of the inaugural board of IEAA in 2004 and 2005. So uh, that is our guest speaker for today. I'm not sure whether this is evening back there in your region or if it is afternoon or if it is morning. But yeah, here is Aditya for you. Hi, Adi, if you'd like to just maybe quickly drop in some message for our audience to probably know you better that way.
I'm looking forward to actually talking to everyone. I'm hoping that people will have some questions for me, but thank you for the opportunity to come in and talk to you all today. Bhavesh, thanks, and Konze and Bhavesh, both of you, very well. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Pleasure, Aditya. Okay, moving forward, guys. If in case if you would like to connect with us on our LinkedIn, profiles, feel free to just drop in us a connection request. My colleagues will be sharing the profile links shortly in the chat box. You'll receive it soon. Feel free to add us. We'd be more than happy to connect with you and probably have a even quick chat with you apart outside this webinar as well. Okay, yeah. Moving forward, we let's talk about some basics of the Australian healthcare system. Unlike any other country, even Australia has their public system as well as the private system. If a lot of people must be also from Asian countries, so this is how it works for us as well. But to know it better, to understand it better, to suggest the correct policy to your students, you should be aware of all these things as well. So if I talk about the Australian healthcare system, the public system and the private system, The public health system in Australia is called Medicare. It is available to all the Australian citizens and permanent residents. International students and overseas visitors are generally not eligible for full access to the Medicare. And on the other hand, the private system, in majority of the cases, visitors to Australia do not have access to Medicare unless eligible for reciprocal health cover and are therefore responsible for all healthcare costs re-entered in Australia. Overseas visitor health cover helps provide appropriate level of private health insurance cover to be used in both public and private health systems in Australia. So, Aditya, I would also like you to add a certain points over here for our agents in terms of, they recommending some correct policies to their students. So, if you can just throw some light over here.
Yeah, sure. The key thing is that public system, those who are based in Australia and are Australian residents or citizens, they would have the Medicare card by default, that the green card that you see on your left. But the private system is primarily designed, private health insurance is designed to access private hospitals. So the way the system is in Australia is the inpatient in hospital and outpatient, which is outside of hospital.
Okay.
Everything in terms of private health system, because visitors, overseas visitors and international students technically don't have access because they're not Australian resident or citizen. They don't have the Medicare access, so they get access to private health insurance system where the benefit for them is that they will actually be able to they can choose to go to either to private hospitals or to public hospitals. So they have a choice. And an insurer, the health insurer with whom they have taken out the health insurance, will
Hmm.
pay for those services up to a limit as per the policy. Will pay for it, generally up to 100% of the Medicare fees.
I
So
see.
the everything in Australia is designed around Medicare benefit schedule fees.
Okay.
So it's up to 100% of the Medicare fee. So the federal government, Australian government, sets the price for each service that is used, whether in an outpatient facility or in inpatient setup. And the
Okay.
insurer will pay only a percentage of that, up to
I see.
100% of the Medicare fees.
All
So
right.
that's
Okay.
the key difference. And one of the important thing for international visitors as such is to know is generally it is actually cheaper to go to a private system than going to a public system because
Okay.
most insurers will have an agreement with the private hospitals, which means they can't charge more than the negotiated rate with the insurer. Whereas in public system, that's not the case. So
Okay.
the charges could be quite high. So there will be quite a lot of out of pocket for the members. So it's important to actually recognize that difference as such, I guess.
I get it. I get it. No, of course. I mean, there was a really quick tip and good information, good piece of information for even myself and our agents. I'm sure this will really help them to choose the correct policy and opt for a specific system while they are sending their visitors to Australia. Thank you, Aditya, for a quick tip on that. Again, I'm sure everyone is definitely aware of what is overseas visitor health cover. But to quickly, just briefly answer that. So again, OVHC is basically overseas visitor health cover. It's a form of health insurance that is designed specifically for international visitors to Australia. It can be purchased by people who are visiting or temporarily working in Australia, for that matter. Okay. Now, why do visitors need it? Okay, I would want Aditya to cover this point. I'm sure he'll be able to provide a good insight, better than me in this one. So over to you, Aditya.
Thanks, Bhavesh. It's a very simple reason. 8501 visa condition. I'm sure all of your audience here, they know what that 8501 visa condition means. It's on a student visa, and it's on any of the mostly working visas and some of the visitors visas, tourist visas that is actually shown. So any visa application or when the visa is being granted, if the visa comes with an 8501 condition, it means that the person has to have the health insurance uh, for them during the duration of a stay in Australia. Now, in most cases, the health cover has to be organized prior to the visa application being launched. So in some visas, it is a mandatory requirement. In some, it's a discretionary requirement from the Department of Home Affairs. So, like for example, 482, visa subclass 482, 485, it's a mandatory requirement, which means the person applying for these visas, they have to purchase the health insurance prior to lodging their visa application. So they have to
Okay.
take the health insurance before. But the
Hmm.
most important thing, the reason why the Australian government has 8501 is to ensure that anyone entering Australia is not a burden on Australian health system because they don't have the health insurance or they
Okay.
can't look after or pay for the healthcare needs in Australia if they get sick. So that is the most important reason why the Australian government has 8501 visa condition.
Okay. Yeah, very well said. I think makes sense. Of course, looking at these things and Australia being one of the favorite destinations of the students, these things are definitely going to matter to the government as well. I'm sure not any government would want a burden in terms of the health insurance covers that way. So
And
yeah,
additionally, it's quite expensive. The healthcare in
correct.
Australia is expensive. So if you don't have health insurance, then it becomes very harder to look after yourself while in the country.
Yeah, yeah, makes sense. Makes sense. And again, a quick tip for our onshore and offshore agents. I'm sure we have already mentioned that over here, but what will be the ideal policy start date for them while they are purchasing the OVHC from the offshore countries, and while, let's say, if the client is already onshore?
So simple, if they are offshore at the moment, if your clients are offshore and they're coming to Australia on a certain date, the start date of the cover would be the date of arrival in Australia. That's what the department actually mandates. And
Okay.
if, for example, your clients are, if they have purchased the cover and the start date is has been put as before their arrival, then or even too far after the arrival, then they can
Uh-huh.
actually call up their insurer and say, I arrived on this date. They can provide the evidence, and their start date will be changed according to the date they arrive in Australia. If they
Okay.
are onshore, it's generally the date the visa was granted.
Okay.
That's the start date of the cover. And the only exception is where the student visa to graduate temporary visa 485, where
Hmm.
the student visa finishes and then the graduate temporary visa cover will start. So we can go through that exception, but that's the only exception as such. But most of those will fall into the offshore or onshore setup
Correct.
for the visas for their health insurance start date.
Perfect, perfect. I mean, this is what a lot of people already know, but some agents who start new, this is something which bothers them, this question that what should be an ideal start date. So, yeah, I think now since you have clarified with all the points, the
And
agents. Mhm. Yeah,
And
please go ahead.
especially in the offshore, it does. If those who are offshore and arriving, and I've seen that from my experience with the student health cover and also in the work visa, especially 482 when they are coming in.
Yeah,
When they sometimes they don't realize that their start date is the date of arrival. So they may actually have some of them will actually have a date that is a few days of after they arrived in Australia. So, for example,
I
they
get it.
arrived today, but their start date may be on 25th or
I see.
27th of February.
Mhm.
Now, in that case, when they go and see a doctor, just in case if they get sick during this period and they go and see, an insurer can't organize a claim for them because the start date is in the future. It's not today.
Correct.
So
I see.
then they actually feel frustrated that their claim is not paid. So the most important thing to advise your client is please ensure that you change your start date of your cover depending on when you arrive in Australia.
Okay. Yeah, I think that is again a good tip coming in from Adi to avoid any such hindrance while your visitors are onshore. So yeah, you can even advise your clients accordingly. Perfect. Very well said, Aditya. And yeah, I basically want you to give kind of an overview, like what is the market share? What is the OVHC market overview? I just want our agents to be aware that, okay, how many policies are, getting purchased every year and what is their scope, in that while they are sitting offshore and while they are sitting onshore. So, if you can just throw some light and give some hints or give some tips to our agents how they can monetize these opportunities, the market share while sitting offshore as well as onshore that way.
So for the overseas visitors cover, and I'm actually only talking about the working visas here, not about the tourist visas at all. So the data, the market overview is based on the working visas alone.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the working visas is just over 400,000 per year.
Okay.
That's what it was last year at least.
Hmm.
It is a little decreased, but ranges around that in that bracket as such. And that combines anyone on working holiday visa or work and holiday visa, and 482 and 485, all of those. But
Yep.
in in this whole thing, the working temporary graduate visa, the 485 is the largest cohort because
Okay.
the student transition from a student visa to the 485 to gain some work experience in Australia, and they
Yep.
stay for 2 to 3 years in Australia as such. So that's the
Oh,
biggest group of people that they actually purchase. And that also means that 70% of the applications that are generated for overseas visitors health cover or for working visas,
yep.
those originate from Australia, not from offshore.
Uh-huh. I
So
see.
that is the key difference.
Hmm.
Skills in demand is an important one. That's actually many of you would have heard the changes that the federal government, Australian government brought in since last year July,
Yep.
and it is expected to grow because it offers a better alignment of PR pathways for different visas post 482 to stay in Australia. So
Hmm.
there is an expectation that this will grow, and we are already seeing some trends that the numbers are actually growing slowly as such in that space. Again, the 482, there's a portion of that originate from offshore, and they normally
Hmm.
come with they are because they are more mature adults. They actually come with family, whereas in temporary
Yep.
graduate they are more singles as such. So it's a very
I see.
different kind of cohort or the profile of applicants, and that means that the health insurance cover that you offer or you recommend would be different depending on the needs of those individuals as such. Now,
Yep.
those who are from India itself or dealing with the
Hmm.
Indian market, two biggest things that have happened last year is Indian nationals now been included in the work holiday visa. That's the subclass 462. It's a ballot based
Correct.
setup for up to 1,000 visas. But again, these are now mostly for 462. It's a discretionary option. But there
Hmm.
may be an opportunity considering that when you are coming to Australia, if you get sick, even though it's discretionary, you may want to take out the health insurance. And going back to my original point, it can be very expensive, and they don't have any other support other than having a health insurance in Australia. So it would be important to take out the health insurance or recommend to your clients that they take out the health insurance when they visit Australia. Same thing for the mates. It's a subclass 403. That's a mates stream, which is those who may not know what mates stand for is mobility arrangement for talented early professionals. Hmm. So
Okay.
that's mates. And
Hmm.
under that, there are 3,000 places available for Indian nationals. And again,
I
it's a
see.
ballot-based setup. So for this year, the government has set up 3,000 of these applications. So they will be
Hmm.
receiving
Okay.
403. It's a mandatory requirement.
Uh-huh.
So
Okay.
they will have to have the health insurance in before they arrive in Australia. So that's an important distinction for them to know.
Yep. Yep.
OVHC is quite highly sensitive to skilled migration policies because the numbers of applications change.
Hmm.
We saw 485 changes that came in from July last year. It drastically reduced the number of people applying for 485, which meant less number of applications flowing through for health insurance as such.
Hmm.
So health insurance, overseas visitors health cover, and working visas, because it's a mandatory requirement for those working visas, they go in tandem. Any changes in the working visas, the demand for working visas, it will change the demand for health insurance for
Correct.
those applicants. But again, in majority of the cases, and many of your team members, or sorry, your clients would be aware of,
Hmm.
the health insurance is purchased online. It's quite
That's
easy
true.
to purchase, it's fast to use, and Conze does a good job with that. So I'm plugging in Conze, but yeah. we have been working for quite a while, but
Yep.
it does quite a good job.
Of course, yeah. I think it was explained again very well, Aditya, in terms of the market share and how many health cover policies are actually purchased every year, showing in some stats. And yeah, the funniest part
And
of it, I thought mates is basically Aussies, but then you clarified it properly for me.
can I just
Yeah,
add, Bhavish, one more thing because I
why
realize
not?
that there are some of your partners from Indonesia and other locations.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
Indonesia, Philippines, they are also quite a big market for 482 and
Okay.
485. 485 is a
Uh-huh.
little less, but for 482, they are quite a big market.
Hmm.
So it's important again to recognize that the differences in the health system and why the health insurance is needed to be purchased when they arrive, and how that can help those clients.
Yep. So of course. I think all the people, I believe, uh, Alphonsius and our other mate from Sri Lanka is also listening to this, and yeah, they'll probably note this point down and suggest this to their clients.
Sri Lanka is a growing market for 482 and 485 both.
Um, okay, I'm sure. Yeah, a lot of applicants from even like Sri Lanka is also growing in terms of the Australian student visas and the other 482, 485, as you mentioned. I'm sure they'll be picking up in the coming years. Okay, perfect. So moving forward, guys. Yeah. Uh, we have certain peak periods. Basically, these are called H1 and H2 periods, where you basically get to understand that, okay, what are the major source of countries from which the OVHC policies are purchased. So I'm sure, again, since we have Aditya, I would like you to throw in some light over here. You can probably describe the periods in a better way. What does this stand for? And yeah, maybe highlight the countries which contribute more to the OVHC market.
Sure. So the reason these are called, they're known as more peak periods for health insurance as such, and more for visa too, because many of your clients, Bhavesh, would also get quite busy at this stage. Is majority of the visas expire around 15th of March, or they come up for renewal on 15th of March and
Mhm.
15th of September. So that's
Yep.
the reason that there's a lot of, and as I said in the beginning, that in terms of the market overview, that the biggest cohort is temporary graduates, 485. So 15th of
Yep.
March and 15th of September, with that February, March
Correct.
after Christmas here, and then end of January, early February, when
Mhm.
people start thinking about, okay, well, I need to actually apply for a graduate visa. Same thing happens in July to September period. So that's
Yep.
why we see a lot more demand of from the applicants to purchase overseas visitors health cover at this point of time. So those of
Yep.
you who don't actually engage in overseas visitors health cover much, maybe a worthwhile thing to look at it. Your clientele who are graduating now or will
Yep.
be graduating between July to September, to
Mhm.
remind them to purchase cover, because from that perspective, it's actually a good, I guess, way of staying in touch with your clients and providing them another service, which
Yep.
they will actually probably will be thankful. And knowing the cohort as such, they normally see their agents as the trusted advisor. So that can definitely play a part in how you engage with them in that conversation about their health insurance needs post whatever visa they are and transitioning to new visa.
Correct.
And
Correct.
the main source of the countries I've previously talked about is a few of those, like India,
Yep.
Nepal, China, Philippines, and UK. But and they are kind of India and UK are very popular from both 485 and 482 perspective, and there is a reason because of the skilled occupation list and the demand for some of those occupation in Australia. But Nepal, China, Philippines, primarily because of that transition from student visa to 485, that
Mhm.
actually plays a part.
Yep.
Philippines is both 482 and 485 vessels, and same for China a little bit, but more for India and UK for 482. From that perspective, it is the largest market.
Okay. Yep. I think even I got to know, Aditya, why I start getting busy during these days. These are the main reasons why, the main intake starts, and then most of the people they graduate during this period and they transit from one visa to other, which
Or
is
even the
why.
extension of a student visa, they normally
Correct.
want, and this is the time when they will do it.
That's true. That's true. And yes, I mean, in case any of you guys, any of your you agents have the students already onshore, who are about to graduate, as Aditya said, to maintain a good relationship with them, and even let's say you know monetize that relationships in terms of selling them or recommending them to get a visitor health cover soon to transit from one visa to the other. I'm sure you can contact them, maybe drop them an email or reach out to them on WhatsApp. They'll feel very good about it, since they'll think that okay, the agents are definitely caring for us. It's not only about the money, but it's also about having the trust built within your students and within your visitors. So yeah, that is a great tip, Aditya. I'm sure this will really help our agents, that way to connect with their onshore students as well. Okay. So let's move forward, guys. Okay, a quick message. Sorry to pause this in between. Naveen is basically asking for the contact details. Naveen, don't worry. My team will share with you the details, so you can contact us on the given email address. We have also shared Aditya's direct LinkedIn ID. I can share with you his official email as well. Give us some time. We'll quickly just drop in into the chat box as well. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. So yeah, let's Aditya, let's discuss some case scenarios where actually the OVHC is applicable. I'm sure you have been giving us some examples in terms of different visa subclasses. But if we talk about regions, some might not be very well aware of these different subclasses of visas, and probably we can just give them a quick brief about the applicable case scenarios. Maybe they can figure out good other way to sell this to their visitors. So
Sure.
yeah, over to you, Aditya.
So there are only four things to know from this table.
Okay.
That's a
Uh,
student visa has its own cover. So anyone applying for a student visa, there's no they don't have a choice. Student health
correct.
cover. That's the only thing they can take out.
That's
Working
true.
visa is overseas visitors health cover, and it's interesting the way department actually talks about overseas visitors health cover because it encompasses both the working and non-working aspects. So non-working for tourist visas like 500, oh sorry, 600, and 870 for parent sponsored parents.
Mm.
So it's important to actually distinguish between a working visa and non-working. That's the
Yep.
important part. Um, but anyone that has an 8501 visa condition, they need a health insurance in Australia. That is as simple as that. So
Okay.
any visa that attracts 8501 condition, it means they need a health insurance, and but then you need to figure it out with the client what visa they are applying, whether they're applying for a working visa or they are applying for a non-working visa like tourist, because the product differs a little bit from that because government is more prescriptive around how that working visas include, and the key component of any working visa is repatriation. Non-working
Mhm.
doesn't include repatriation
Okay.
because of just cost in itself. Um, if they have any other visa, then most visas either they will be part of the that will listed as part of under Medicare under ministerial order, whether they will have the Medicare access or not. Reciprocal, there are around 11, 12 countries who have reciprocal arrangement with Australia, which means their citizens coming to Australia will get enrolled into Medicare, and they can go to public hospital for emergency services and all of that. But not every single country have access for the duration of their stay in Australia. So some of them actually have
Okay.
only for 6 months.
Hmm.
So after they will need the health insurance. So that
Uh,
is the key part to remember from reciprocal healthcare arrangement
correct.
portion. And again, the other part for this is Anyone that has the blue or a green card, they can have Medicaid,
Okay. Okay.
and that will
Blue or
come
a
as
green
part
card.
of the blue or green card. They will have any other. The other is light yellow. If they actually have
Okay.
that card, unfortunately not. They will have that whole full access, but they can actually take out the cover as such. They will have emergency access,
Oh,
so that's what normally is under the reciprocal. That's where they normally get the card.
perfect. Perfect. Yeah, I mean, things are even pretty clear for me as well right now. If I not even talk about the agents, I'm sure they must have understood even better than me. But then, yeah, if I talk about myself, looking at the different classification of, how you explained it in considering the student visa, working class, non-working class, and any other visa types, I think even I am able to understand this pretty much well right now. So amazing. And Aditya, I mean, Naveen had one more question since we are already
So
here. He was just asking that does it also cover subclass 403 8501 condition?
that's right. Yeah,
Yeah.
403. As I said in the beginning, 403 has a mandatory requirement, 8501. So it will be covered as. So they will need to take out the overseas visitors health cover. So one of the other general rules and migration, if anyone is migration agent here, that they probably will have a better idea than I do. But what I've observed is the visas are starting with 400, except
Yeah.
those for New Zealand part, but temporary visas for 400. They generally
Hmm.
are a working visas.
Okay.
So
Hmm.
generally they are, most of those are. There are some exceptions, but most of those like 482, 485, 403, 407, 400. Um, so they are all working visas. So they
Working
will need
visas.
a working visa health cover. Now the key difference
Oh.
between when I talked about the working visa and non-working visa health cover
Hmm.
is the repatriation is one of the key differences. So when you are
Okay.
looking at, you're talking to a client and they're looking to purchase a health insurance, and they are purchasing it for example, the 403 that Naveen is talking about,
Hmm.
it should actually have a repatriation in it because that's one of the key component of the working visas.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you for answering that question, Aditya. I am sure Naveen has got a better clarity now. Thank you, Naveen, for putting up this question. And I think even others will be benefited from this one. So, cheers to that. Okay. Moving forward, guys, let's Aditya, let's give our audience a quick hint of the visa pathways in terms of, let's say, if, for example, I am traveling on a student visa to Australia, what is my ideal journey in terms of the visa transitions? What all subclasses can I move, from one to the other, and basically what all again can be covered under the OVHC. So, yeah, over
So
to you.
now, with regards to one of the caveats I want to put on this is only here we are sharing the information around a student visa pathway to working visa, not
Correct.
to any other visa like 491 or any of the state sponsorship or permanent resident, only on a work visa pathway,
Yeah.
because technically that's where most of those actually normally go. The others are there, but they are not that common as such.
Mm-hmm.
And the average length is 3.3 years in general, and that encompasses both the 485, 482, and the rest as such, the longer visas that they stay here for. Student pathway is a very common one from 482. They will go on 485, 482, and some on 417. It's not very common, but it's common for those who are listed under 417 category, the countries from where they belong
Okay.
to.
Hmm.
But 485 and 482 are more common as such, where they and 485 is the most common of
Okay.
all three pathways.
I see.
So as soon as they are on a student visa and they're finishing their student visa, before they apply for any of these work visas like 485 or 482, they
Hmm.
will need to provide the evidence of health insurance with their visa application.
Okay.
And the
Hmm.
OHC will not cut it with the Department of Home Affairs because OHC is only for the student visa.
Correct. That's
As
correct.
soon as the student visa expires, they will need to show the evidence of working visa health cover for the new visa that they're transitioning to, like 485 or 482. 417 is still a discretionary, but they should actually take it out considering they won't have access to the public health system as such. in Australia.
Okay.
So, so that's the pathway they normally take. Or even if they are going from a
Correct.
student visa to 485 and then to 482 on skills in demand,
Mm-hmm.
then they don't, apart from a student visa where they had OSHC, and once they move to 485 with overseas visitors health cover on working visa, when they move to 482, they don't have to again change the cover. They can
Okay.
provide the evidence of their existing cover because it's the same cover on 482. So
Correct.
the Department of Home Affairs will accept that. When they move from 485 to 482, the same cover can continue as such.
Okay. Yeah, that was pretty informative, Aditya. I think even the other agents, while some are only focusing on, let's say, student visa, they can actually guide their students that, okay, ideally this will be the other subclass which you can opt for while you are done with your graduation. And again, they can straight away tell them that if you need any insurance, support from our end while you are transitioning from 500 to 485, you can contact us that way as well. So they can be very proactive looking at this information. Yeah,
And every year, approximately one third of the student base graduates. So that kind of replicates in your own agency, which means that's a good opportunity to look at. As you said
correct.
in the beginning, it's the additional revenue that they can generate for their own business from that perspective.
That's true. That's true. Great. Great to know these transitions and the visa subclasses, Aditya. Okay. Now, we will talk specifically about the subclass 485 visa, which Aditya said, which is the most commonly opted visa subclass by the students while they are onshore. And we'll see some cases in terms of, that how it can you can say impact the student in case if their visa gets expired or they don't have a valid insurance. So yes, Aditya, if you can just throw some light on this one and explain this to
So
our
the
audience.
exception that we discussed earlier with regards to the start date of the cover between OSHC and OVHC when the student is transitioning to 485.
Yeah,
So the example is primarily, so I'll keep the example same. I've kept the example as the 15th of March because most visas expire. So up to 15th of
correct.
March, if somebody has a student visa, they are on OHSC. So
Mm-hmm.
their overseas visitors health cover should start logically from 16th of March 2025. And when that evidence is provided to the Department of Home Affairs, they will accept it. Now, unless the department grants the visa quite early, and some case officers sometimes do ask for start date to be brought forward, as I understand from some of our partners. So in
Yeah,
that case, we can change the date. So that's not an issue. But generally, the department actually looks at it, and what the best practice was from many of the migration agents that I know is they will they will put the start date for OVHC one the next day when the OHFC finishes. So from 16th of March, they will put the start date. What it
correct.
does two things.
Mm-hmm.
It's easier for when the member requests for a transfer certificate from their previous insurer. If, for
Okay,
example, they are with Bupa at the moment and they are moving to AIA from 16th of March, when we request that the transfer certificate on behalf of the member, Bupa
mm-hmm.
will release the transfer certificate after 15th of March, showing that how long they had the cover, what waiting period they have already served. And
Okay,
based on that, we will provide the continuity of cover to the member. What it means is the waiting period's already served in OSHC. They don't have to serve it again on the same level of cover.
correct. Yeah,
So it really helps the members too to make sure that they don't go back and forth in terms of collecting the transfer certificate and getting stuck with their claims. Because the OHSC providers will not issue the transfer certificate if the date is prior to the end of their OHSC,
mm-hmm.
because the visa requirement is that they have to have the OHSC until the last date of that student visa or when the visa
Yes.
expires. So unless the member can show that they have been granted another visa before the expiry of a student visa, they
Mm-hmm.
won't get the relief.
Okay.
So it's very, very important to recognize that. I do see over time, I've seen in the last 20 years quite a lot, and last few years, in fact, I've seen quite a lot of those cases where people get stuck. So it's very,
Uh-huh.
very important that recognize that difference between. transition from a student visa to temporary graduate 485.
Correct. Yeah. Perfect. This was first is the case, and yeah, basically the second case that we will be highlighting it to you will be what happens when 485 visa holder applies for 482. As I said previously, while we were looking at the other slide, that a lot of people go from 485 to 482. So yes, Aditya, if you can
So
just
in this, as I mentioned earlier, there is no change because both have work visas
yep.
and the cover can continue because the health cover complies with the requirement from Department of Home Affairs under a 501 condition, which
Hmm.
means they provide the existing details of their cover, the cover certificate to Department of Home Affairs, and they can continue as is. There is not going to be any change for them.
Okay. Yeah, makes sense. So yes, I hope our audience, our agents are able to relate with this, and a lot of things are getting clarified for them in terms of what all things they need to keep in mind while suggesting their students from transition, while they're transitioning from 500 to other visa subclasses. Okay. Now, as Aditya even mentioned earlier, we kind of explained, student and working and non-working visa classes, but we'll also see some, other visa classes where we can, Aditya will basically give you a quick brief of, okay, when this is opted or, why, whether this is actually eligible for OVHC as well. So, yeah, over to you, Aditya.
These are the most common working visa subclasses that the insurers cover, and
Yeah.
these are 11 visa subclasses that we as AIA cover. So
Okay.
anyone that is applying for any of these visas, they will have the health insurance with us. But generally, this is where the Department of Home Affairs has most of these will have some kind of either mandatory. I mean, most of them have a mandatory requirement for 851, except 462 and 417, where the requirement is very much discretionary, depending on the member itself,
Hmm.
whether they want to take out the cover. But these are the 11 visa conditions, oh, sorry, visa subclasses that AIA covers for
Okay.
its partners.
Perfect. Perfect. Yeah. So just a quick, uh, recall for you. So basically, these visa subclasses cover 188, which is bus innovation
It's
and
a business
invest
innovation and investment,
business.
but it's actually closed now. So there are only those who
Oh, okay.
are still on that visa subclass, but looking to renew or do something. That's why it is still there.
Correct.
It was recently closed. 400
Okay.
temporary work is
Short
short
stay.
stay for short period that they're coming in. Temporary
Yeah.
work 403. That's where I talked about the mates. For comes into that in terms of that 407 training. Normally it's for a couple of years.
Yeah.
So people are coming here to do the training after. Uh, I mean, when they get the sponsorship to come here for training, I think.
Hmm.
408 temporary activity, which was very popular in the one of the stream was COVID visa,
Uh-huh.
if people remember. It's been closed now.
Okay.
417 working holiday, 462 work and holiday, again, quite easy. That 462 is where Indian nationals are now eligible, 1,000 of those
Correct.
to come in.
Correct.
476 is still recognized graduate is still there, but it's very low. Um, and 482 temporary skills shortage, which is now changed to skills in demand, and
Yep.
485 temporary graduates, and 489 skilled regional.
Yeah.
So they are some of those visas that require
Perfect.
health insurance.
Yes. Okay. So, yes, Aditya, I mean, I'm sure now our agents are very well aware of, what all visa subclasses are actually covered while if they are sending any visitor, to Australia. And yeah, they can, I'm sure they've also noted some points which you shared earlier, which will be useful for them to even suggest to their students as well. Okay. Now, let's come to a discussion, Aditya, where let's discuss some challenges basically which are faced by our agents while they are selling the OVHC or overseas visitor health cover, policies to their clients that way. If we talk about that, the very first question I think that comes into anyone's mind. or if they have even started the new business or while they are in the industry since quite a while now, that how can agents ensure they recommend the right OVHC plan based on visa subclass? If you can,
And it's a very, very important one. And
yeah,
if I can go back to the conversation we had just a little bit while earlier, where I
yeah,
talked about the right OVHC plan, the most important thing is to figure it out what visa subclass they're applying for.
correct,
So because if people look at the Department of Health website and private health in Australia, when they search for OVHC, it will give all different options to them, both working and non-working.
hmm,
So the most important thing is to figure it out whether it's a working visa or
correct,
it's a non-working visa or a tourist
yep.
visa. That's the
Those
first
are
thing
the two
to.
main things look for. Yep,
After that is to figure it out what the person really needs, whether they are single, couple, or family. Accordingly, they will need to take out the cover that suits their needs.
correct,
My recommendation and what I've always talked about to our partners and to my partners that please don't talk about the and don't give an advice around what is covered and what's not covered
hmm,
because it can get it wrong. So when in doubt, please get your talk to your insurance partner.
yep,
Or for example, in my if you are our partner, just talk to me. I can help you get the right information as such that you can pass it on to the members because
correct,
some of the members will have they want to know about whether a particular symptom, particular disease is condition is covered or not. And generally, the way the product sheet is created in health insurance in Australia is based on the clinical categories that the Department of Health has outlined. So if, that's how you will see those broad clinical categories coming. So don't get into the conversation about the nitty gritty of the product itself, but the key
hmm,
important thing is to figure it out what subclass, what level of cover they want, single family couple, and
yep.
what they're looking to pay.
Perfect. Perfect. Yeah. Very well constructed response, Aditya. I think a lot of people have already remembered it, and I'm sure this will be very useful to them in the coming days.
And
Since, mhm,
can I
yeah,
just add, I'll just say that
sure.
what they are ready to pay, it's also important to know what the excess is because in student health cover, OHSC, there is no excess applicable. And this question comes up quite often, the excess,
Mhm.
because as soon as they come on to the overseas visitors health cover, they will have different excess levels 0, 250, 500, 750. The excess level actually follows the Australian domestic health insurance model.
Okay. Mhm.
So they are very similar in that sense. So the excess is only applicable if a person has been admitted in a hospital. If they
I
go
see.
and visit a GP, excess is not applicable. Excess is applicable only when they're admitted in the hospital.
Hospital. Okay.
So that's the key important thing to remember with regards to excess. Because there's sometimes members do ask, well, they have to pay excess whenever they go to, and how often they have to pay. The
Correct.
only once a calendar year per person, they will have to pay the excess. And generally, excess is applicable for adults only, not under 18 kids.
Okay. Yeah. Uh, Again, ending it on a very informative note. A quick tip after the response. So lovely. Thank you for that, Aditya. Yeah, let's move to the other question, which I think a lot of people already have. Even I have this. If you can highlight, what are the key misconceptions about waiting periods, especially for different conditions, like including pregnancy and other critical medical conditions.
It's a hot topic.
Yeah, yeah,
The most important thing to remember about the waiting periods is, as I said in the beginning, a little earlier, if they move from OSHC to OVHC, any waiting period they have served will be recognized in OVHC. The reason being both are almost similar level of cover. If I have to
yeah.
put into perspective the hospital component of that cover, that's a gold cover in Australia.
Okay,
Gold cover
gold
is
cover.
where pregnancy is covered.
Okay,
So OHSC and OVHC are similar on that. The difference comes into is with regards to OVHC is whether the coverage for outpatient services like GP, X-rays, pathology would be covered or not. In OHHC, it is all covered because it has to be as per the OHHC deed, which the Department of Health establishes, and that deed has to be signed by the insurer offering OHHC. So they have to, it's very prescriptive, so they have to follow that and offer the OHHC accordingly.
Mhm.
OVC doesn't have that same kind of a rigor from the Department of Health, but it
Okay.
outlines overall what can be covered. So to provide affordability to people, and because there's a large section that is actually quite young, they
Mhm.
tend to purchase the cover without GP visits. So they, because in the student health cover they have been there and they have not gone and visited GPs. They feel that they are not going to be sick, so they only take out the hospital cover. So they will see some of the health insurance cover offered with only hospital access, in hospital services covered, but no out of hospital services covered like GPs. Then there is a the coverage that has both of them,
Okay.
but no outpatient pregnancy.
Mhm.
So some of those will actually happen. But in terms of the waiting periods, they any if they are moving on the same level of cover from one Australian health insurer to another health insurer in Australia,
Mhm.
they will the insurer will recognize the waiting periods and will provide the continuity of cover on the same level of cover. Now, the key part is some insurers only give you 30 days, some give 60-day uh, period to move.
Okay.
So you have to actually look at the that requirement from each insurer. It differs. If you miss that period, then you have to reserve the waiting period. 16 days is the maximum because it
60
follows the
days.
same again the domestic health insurance model, where
Yes.
if you have not moved, if you have not taken out the other health insurance before you drop your existing one within 60 days, then you have to reserve all the waiting periods. Now,
Okay.
technically, on when you are on a work visa, you shouldn't be dropping your cover because you are in breach of 850.
Ah, yes.
So that is the important part of it. But some people do it
Ah,
for various reasons. But that's the key important. Now, so once the waiting period is recognized and continuity of cover is provided, it doesn't matter whether you have what conditions you have, you will continue to be covered as long as it's part of uh, the policy details. If
yeah.
that particular condition is excluded from the policy, it doesn't matter. You won't be covered for it. So it's
Okay.
very important to read the policy document well from the member's
Mhm.
perspective. In a pregnancy, as I mentioned, pregnancy is generally covered because that's one of the biggest costs as such. So
Yeah.
in-hospital pregnancy is covered. Insurers offer different level of coverage for pregnancy. In some cases, they will not have any coverage for outpatient. In a higher level product, they will have both in-hospital and out-of-hospital pregnancy coverage.
Okay.
So it depends insurer to insurer as such, what
Mhm.
they're comfortable with that risk.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I think in that case, while the agents are purchasing the policies on their behalf of their clients, or while they are asking them to find out one, these all points should be actually highlighted and considered that way. And as you mentioned that since these subclasses 482, 485, all these are young people, they avoid taking the GP visits, inclusions in the policies. They only opt for the hospital visits that way. But I think agents can actually recommend them and basically tell them to, even for the safer side, opt for these GP visits as well. Because you never know. I mean, while you are in abroad, and as you mentioned, that healthcare is pretty expensive back there in Australia. So just not to deal with a lot of mental trauma while you are working as well as you're studying. You don't want any other hassle to bother you that way. So
Absolutely. And
yeah,
that's the thing, because most people, when they actually were a student, they think that they are not going to be sick. But as soon as they are on OVC, the probability of you getting sick as you age is going to be higher.
correct. Yeah.
So, and plus you're working, there's something come up in the workplace, you will get sick. The first point of contact in Australia is always a GP. You
Mhm.
can't go straight to the specialist because if you go to a specialist, that won't be covered by your health insurance.
I
So
see.
you have to go to a GP first,
Okay.
and then
Yeah.
GP will do a referral to the specialist. So it's
Okay.
important to recommend the right cover because generally they will have some kind of a outpatient visit once or twice a year anyway. minimum.
Correct. Yeah, makes sense. Perfect. I can see certain questions dropping in. I would just request your patience, guys. We are about to reach to our question and answers round in next 5 to 7 minutes, and we'll definitely take all your questions. Rest assured. Yep. Thank you for your cooperation. Okay. Now, coming to again the other, questions. We have covered the misconceptions. We have covered the visa subclasses. What do you think are the other most common challenges that agents face in selling OVHC, and how can they overcome them, Aditya?
I think the most common challenges that they actually face is primarily the knowledge, the knowledge of the health insurance and the health insurance. I guess that's probably one of the biggest challenges that they face. Um, at least from my experience of talking to the
Mhm.
clients, talking to agents, it comes out across they can't differentiate between the product because it is 8501 compliant. There are small things that differentiate products. For example, in most insurers will cover only 100% of the Medicare fees for GP, but not for radiology or pathology. They will only cover 85%, which means you actually not only paying the out of pocket because most of these services will have an out of pocket, but extra 15% compared to the insurer that actually covers 100% of the Medicare fees for all service items. So those small things that they actually don't realize. The second
Mhm.
is because word of mouth is quite big, so everyone tends to look at it. Okay, this is the insurer that I want to actually take it out because everyone else has taken. So the product features become less important in that case. But then
Correct.
the conversation increases that later on that I was not covered for this or I have difficulty in claiming. So it's very important to actually recognize the bigger the insurer, the better it probably would be. Rather than the small, because one of the things, the other thing important to recognize is health insurers, what their network of hospitals or doctors is, because you want the network to be big,
Yep.
the hospital network to be big. So if there are some state-based insurers, then they, even though they would be national as such, but their capability will be more around their region, their state itself. So it's important to recognize what the differences in those products. If in doubt, again, ask your partner, ask someone you trust, and get that information.
Mhm.
So, like for example, sometimes I get those questions coming in. I will be honest, depending on what the need is, I'll say whether we can offer it or we can't offer it. Well, I can
Mhm.
recommend some.
Yep.
So it's very important to recognize that because then you build your trust with the client rather than just offering the product that you think is right, and recognizing that it's actually right, whether that's right for the client or not.
Correct, correct. No, no, very well said, Aditya. I think, yes, as you mentioned, that a lot of people rely on the word of mouth for that matter, but then a lot of like different people, different conditions. So agents should rather rely on first analyzing the student situation, where in what state they are going to stay, and if they have any pre-medical health conditions, and only then probably recommend the ideal policy for them. And as you said, if confused, they can anytime reach out to the provider and probably clarify the things, and then it is betterment for their visitors, their clients, ultimately. So yeah, well said again. And yes, I think these were the major questions which actually were in my mind, and I'm sure even our agents will be having this question. Okay, we'll quickly reach to our poll time. Our team has sent you a quick poll on the chat box, and I would want every one of you guys to participate. Okay, so a quick poll for you. Do you still have any doubts to clear with Mr. Aditya? Yes, you can choose the three questions. I'm sure we already have received 2 to 3 questions earlier, in the chat. We'll definitely be covering that. But then, yeah, in case if either of the other participants have any such doubts or any such questions, just, submit your responses in the poll. And we'd be more than happy to even cover them in the question and answer round if you want that. Or, as I said, we'll share with you the email address of Mr. Aditya. You can even reach out to them that way, and they'll be he'll be able to help you. So yeah, a quick poll. Let's take this in next 1 minute, and then we can move to the next part.
In the meantime, do you want me to answer some of these questions that have come up?
Sure, we can take them, Aditya. So I think, yeah, the Naveen's question initially was answered. Then, okay, Naveen had another question. He mentioned that, sorry to ask you again, it's a follow-up question. For subclass 403, should they take this for the complete 24 months, or it can be a monthly renewable plan?
It will be a monthly renewable plan. So OVHC generally is a monthly plan. It's not
Okay,
a well, they can pay up to year in advance for to ensure that they don't have a price or a price rise in between. If the insurer increases the price, they don't have to pay that increase until the renewal date. But generally, the OVHC premiums are payable monthly. So
okay,
it's not like OHC where it's for the whole period, but in
one
OVHC
shot, yeah,
it's monthly
monthly.
monthly premium.
Makes sense, yeah. Thank you for answering that, Aditya. I hope you got your clarification on this one, Naveen. Okay, then we have a question from Victoria Vincent from WorldX. Uh, will the shift affect career prospects from OFHC to OVHC?
Sorry, I
I,
didn't get that
yeah,
question.
we might need a better clarification. Okay. So we will come to that. Okay. Victoria, maybe if you can just reach out to us in the question and answer round. You can even unmute yourself and then we can clarify this. We'll jump to Gokul's question. If the applicant is adding a spouse or dependent child, how does that affect the pricing and benefits? Can dependents be added later or must they be included from the start itself?
So this is a very important one because most of the time, if it's a single premium, couple and family, so the premiums are if you add. Generally, in Australia, the pricing is as based on whether you are a single, couple, or family. But if you have a family of 6 or 7, it doesn't matter because it will only be the family rate that will apply into that membership. So I'm assuming that's what you are actually asking. The benefits won't change because the OVHC cover as required from the Department of Home Affairs. It outlines what needs to be covered. So what you actually get as a product uh, is what whether you are a single couple or family, you will get the same coverage for that purpose. So if I'm adding my family, I can add my family, my wife and my kids. I can actually add, but then the price will change to that family type pricing whatever that
Okay.
price is for the insurer. It
Mhm.
won't be per person kind of a premium. It's just what that family price already advertised. That would be payable from the day they actually want. They don't have to put it from the start date of the cover. They can add their dependents anytime when they arrive in Australia.
Okay. Yeah.
But the
Uh,
important thing to remember is their waiting periods will apply. If they have never served a waiting period in Australia, with another health insurer, then the waiting periods will apply. Some insurers do offer or recognize some of the international insurers. They recognize the international health insurer. They will recognize the waiting periods for that. But again, there will be very, very limited recognition for that purpose. So the
mhm.
most of the time, they will have to serve the waiting period in Australia if they have never had a health insurance.
Okay. I think that clarifies for you. And yeah, Mr. Google. Okay, we've got three more questions, but then okay, we'll just quickly check what AIA has to offer. Aditya has some things to present to you in terms of representing his company and what all countries do they are already have a spread of and what all policies do they offer. I think once that is done, we can definitely cover the other questions. Even Victoria has clarified a question. I'm sure we'll take that up as well. But then, yeah, just give us 2 more minutes and we'll get back to you guys. So, yes, Aditya, over to you.
Thank you, Bhavesh. AIA, it's some of you may have already heard of AIA as such. It is the world's largest insurance company.
Yep.
located or listed in Hong Kong Stock Exchange, and operating in 18 countries. In India, it's known as Tata AIA. We also
Yep.
operate in Philippines as, I think, if I'm not wrong, it's like Philomena. That's the local name. Indonesia, Malaysia, Singapore, Vietnam, Thailand. So all of those locations we have our presence, and
Mhm.
we are one of the largest insurers in those countries too. So we are not small as such. In Australia, we have been operating for over 50 years, and primarily as life insurance company. And it's interesting when I talk to some of my clients that many of you who would know about Australian system, that as in the workplace, the employer has to contribute towards the superannuation, 11.5% to the superannuation. So we partner with quite a lot of superannuation companies in Australia, and we provide insurance through superannuation. So some of the clients, they may not know that they already have a coverage with AIA because of that relationship. So AIA is not well known from the health insurance, but in the last 4 years, we are the fastest growing health insurer in the country. And we launched overseas visitors health cover almost 1.5 years back,
Mhm.
to because of the regions that we play in or the way we operate. People coming to Australia come from most of those regions, as outlined in the map on the screen at the moment.
Mhm.
So that was a logical choice for us to offer the health insurance as such.
And we'll quickly even understand
In
what.
case, if
Yeah, so
can I just add
please
one
go
more
ahead.
thing? If you are a soccer player, if you are a soccer fan, and you
I
follow
was about to
Tottenham,
say.
we are the sponsor of Tottenham Hotspur.
Correct, correct. I was about to say that, Aditya. I mean, the very first time when I saw AIA logo was initially on the football jersey. Now I believe you are sponsoring Tottenham Hotspur, but you've also
Yes,
sponsored the other teams in past, like Manchester
yes.
United and some other Premier League clubs as well. So that was the first thing from where I got to know about AI. Lovely. Okay. And yeah, we will even check out some the plans of OVHC, what AIA has to offer, and Aditya will be here to quickly just guide you what are the usually charges and what all things are covered. So yeah, over to you, Aditya.
So we offer two products, keeping it simple: base cover and standard cover, overseas visitors health cover. Our base cover starts at $63, so highly competitive in the market, and then the standard cover is at 103. Again, very competitive in that space with someone who sells it for $99.98. You may already know that insurer. In terms of the coverage, it's depending on the excess that they need, 750 or 500, the price will change. Base cover is only in hospital services and no out of hospital services. A standard cover has both in hospital and out of hospital services, but no out of hospital pregnancy. So that's the key difference, and that's where the most of the market normally is. So that's why we have offered these to align with the demand in the market as such. And it's very easy to purchase. Once you can do it online. There's a specific link for the companies, and they can purchase the cover through that link as such.
Perfect. Thank you for explaining this comparison as well, Aditya. I'm sure our agents will be able to understand AIA better now. And yeah, maybe a quick brief of the features, the product features which you guys provide. We can just
Sure.
provide that.
So,
Yeah.
as I mentioned in the beginning, the biggest difference between non-working and working is the repatriation coverage. So, we do
Mhm.
have a repatriation and funeral expenses covered as part of our product feature. So, if somebody passes away and the family wants to take their mortal remains back, we pay up to $10,000. Or if somebody has a medical condition and they need to go back with the help of medical professional, we'll pay up to $100,000, and we will help organize those things. And if a family, because of religious reasons, cultural reasons, want to have a funeral in Australia, again, we will cover up to $10,000 cost towards that service. The other important one to remember is we provide a choice of treating doctors or specialists. So the member doesn't have to actually go to a specific doctor or hospital. They can choose where they want to go. That's one of the benefits of taking out the health cover in Australia. And we have a 24/7 helpline, which provides access to the registered nurse to guide them with any health related questions. If they need counseling for some trauma counseling, up to 3 hours of counseling is available, or if they need advice and guidance and they need interpreter, we can help arrange that through that 24/7 helpline. They are the key
That's
features benefit.
mhm.
And we pay
That's great.
100% of the Medicare fees on all service items.
Okay. Yeah, I think all these, help that you guys are providing, the 24/7 interpreter help as well. People traveling from different countries, if they are facing any problem while communicating with the local medical authorities, this will be a very great help to them as well. And it actually, builds a lot of trust between the clients when they tend to see such initiatives from the insurance providers. Like, they feel that, okay, this is not they are doing for the sake of it. Rather, this is what they like to do, and they help to support visitors in Australia that way. So great. Thank you so much, Aditya, for giving a quick brief about AIA's offerings. And before we come to the question and answers round, I'll quickly just let you know, guys, from where I am and which company I'm representing. I'm sure a lot of people already know, but yeah, uh, we are Conze. We are basically building exceptional SaaS-based solutions to reform education and immigration industry. That is what we do. We have good SaaS-based products. Some are listed in front of you. Condesk is a full-fledged CRM for the edge immigration industry where you can manage your, end-to-end operations. You have Conpair. Again, it is specifically for the people who are dealing in Australia. If you want to purchase OVHC or OVHC health covers, you can compare the rates of different providers, including AIA, on a platform, and then you can give or choose the, correct plan for your visitors or students that way. We have Consign, which is an e-signature platform. So if in case if you are dealing with a lot of signatures on daily basis, if you want to skip the hard paperwork and get to the e-sign format, we are there for you. You can definitely contact us. We'd be more than happy to provide you a good demo for either of these services. And we also have Search My Insco. This is more useful for the people again who are based onshore, even offshore. If you want to search an occupation, and give a immigration advice in terms of what are the eligible states where the student can reside if you are planning the PR pathway, what are the conditions, what all visa subclasses will be ideal for them, which can gain a certain points for them. So a nice report can be generated and sent to your customers that way. So these are the four products. You can reach out to us anytime if at all you are willing to get a demonstration of these. You can even go to our website, check out the other services that we offer. Okay, now coming to the question and answers round, guys, we really appreciate your patience. Let's take the remaining questions and we will be okay. So I think, yeah, my colleague has already added this in the last paragraph. Okay, will the shift affect? Will there be any change in the premium? Okay, one of the questions was, will there be change in premium in regards to age and duration? Aditya, if you can answer that.
Sorry, what? Can you repeat that question again?
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Will there be any change in the premium amount if there is any, change regards to the age or the duration of the policy which they are purchasing?
So the risk-based premiums is not offered in the OVHC in working visas, at least that's as far as I know in the market. So if somebody is coming in on a work visa, they will actually get based on the family type, not based on the age. That doesn't apply in Australia. The age based does apply for non-working, generally over 60 and 65. They will have the premium changed depending on what age they are. Their premium may increase such because of the risk.
Okay,
But generally in work visas, there is no age-based premium charge, at least as far as I
I
know in
get it.
Australia.
Okay, okay. Thank you for answering that, Aditya. Then Dijan has asked the question for subclass 600 OVHC, do we purchase with a start date and an end date based on a ticket?
If it's a shorter duration, yes, you can purchase that both start and end date. But generally, the people purchase it with a start date of the cover, and then it's a monthly premium payable. Because it again, as I said, that the OVHC follows the domestic, and it's a monthly premium. People are more comfortable with paying. So So because of
Yep.
the value, the premium size itself compared to student health cover, so they can pay monthly.
Okay. Yep. Again, thank you for taking that up. We have Omar. Omar has asked a question. Can an insured person cancel OVHC mid-policy purchase through AIA if they leave Australia earlier than expected?
Yes, they can cancel their cover if they leave early because it's a monthly premium payable. It doesn't matter when they cancel. Um, they may
Mhm.
actually be eligible for refunds, but it totally depends on the terms and conditions of the policy.
Makes sense. Makes sense. Okay. Then we have Devinder's question. He's asking that does AIA's or VHC cover those over 70-year-old applicants holding a subclass 600 visitor visa?
Unfortunately, not yet. We are looking to build the product for 600 non-working. So look out for that. We will be coming to the market with that product sometime this year, hopefully.
Okay. I
But at
think,
the
yeah,
moment, we only offer
Devinder.
working visa.
All right. Okay. And then, yeah, I think Victoria's question was earlier, if student may ask, if I switch from a full-time higher education course, will it be harder for me to get a job in Australia's job market?
I'm not the qualified person to give an answer on this because there's multiple things involved in it. If you are studying part time, I'm not sure how that impacts the student visa because that's the key part of it. It's way before even the career part is the student visa impact that would be there. So I think Victoria, if you are a migration agent, then you might be able to help the students, or you may want to actually talk to a migration agent in terms of how that impacts. But I don't think the career questions will actually be the first one that will come up.
Okay. And Victoria also added a question related to that. If a student may ask, what if I don't switch to OVHC once my student visa expires? Will that affect my ability to stay in Australia?
Well, they have to provide evidence of cover to the department. Otherwise, if they are, for example, if they are moving to 485, 482 after a student health cover from the student visa transition, when they lodge their application, the department will ask them for the evidence of cover. So if they don't provide the evidence of cover, they may not get a visa.
Okay.
So that probably won't actually because a department is very strict on these matters. So they do ask a copy. If the applicant didn't provide in the beginning, they may ask to provide the evidence before the visa grant happens. So again,
Yep.
migration agent can provide more information around that. But
Yep.
as far as I know, that's what the department will ask.
Okay. Thank you for taking that up. And yeah, Devinder just has a last closing statement stating it is must needed. I think he's talking about the 70-year-old policies for, subclass 600. So yeah, I think Devinder, Aditya has noted your suggestion as well. I'm sure, Aditya, if you can.
Yeah, we are working on the non-working part, so look out for that. I will certainly reach out once we have that available.
Okay, lovely. So yes, I mean, we kind of had a great session. In case if you guys have any further questions, feel free to ask that questions from us, and yeah, we'd be more than happy to take it. Or else, as I said, you can even reach out to us later after this webinar. My colleagues will drop in the details of Aditya's email ID and LinkedIn uh, profile as well. You can even contact him directly. And yes, all the people are saying thank you to you, Aditya, Victoria, Devinder, and the other people, Gokul, whose questions were answered.
Thank you so much, and hopefully the session was informative and you gained something out of it. And there is a lot of that confusion that happens with regards to overseas visitors' health cover. So thank you very much for organizing, Bhavish.
Pleasure, pleasure, Aditya. Maybe more to come in future as per our audience demand. So we'll plan one more with you. And yeah, even the other people, yeah. Then he just said that thank you for this informative session. So yeah, I'm sure Aditya people found it very informative that way, very fruitful, and they've noted some suggestions. And don't worry, guys, we'll try to send these presentations to you as well across your emails. We have your registered email ID so that you can keep this information with you and save it with you. And yeah, even the recordings will also be shared, so you can even revisit the discussions which we had earlier. Omar, great session. Okay, thank you, Omar. Lovely knowing that you enjoyed our session, and we will see you soon in some other time, a different session. Even Dejan says thank you, very informative. Uh, Glad to know that, Dejan. Thank you for joining us from Macedonia. I don't know what time is it right now over there, but then glad to have you today over here. Yeah. So I think more or less we have answered all the questions, Aditya. There are no more coming in.
No worries. That's fine. If anything, just reach out to me on my mobile or the email. I've got WhatsApp on my mobile, so
Yep.
happy to answer those questions and have a chat.
Perfect. Great. So we can definitely conclude this webinar today. I would again like to thank you, Aditya, for being very patient and answering all the questions of our audience and sharing some really good suggestions for their betterment. So thank you once again. I'll hope to see you soon and host one more webinar with you in the coming future.
No worries. Thank you so much. Have a good day, everyone.
Yeah. Have a good day,
Thanks.
everyone. Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye.